Hi, folks. Rolla here. We made it again. Let me bring my pals on. There's Freddie.
Hi, everyone.
There's Michael.
Hey, thanks.
Okay. You like it better that way?
Yeah, looks good. Beautiful weather day. How about by you guys?
Looks good.
Looks good. Okay. Now, before I forget, because Manny called me and he says that he needs the address for a sponsorship because he didn't do it yet. So I'm going to put up your thing, Freddie, and this way I'll put it up a couple of times tonight in the event that Manny didn't get in yet. And so I'm going to put it up now, and then we'll do it again a couple of times during the night.
All right.
But Manny just called me and he says, so I says, watch tonight up.
The Harness Racing Alumni is currently producing a tribute video to Mike LaChance. Mike LaChance is one of our sport's greatest drivers of all time, a winner of over 10,253 races with career earnings exceeding $180 million. He is a winner of 4 Hamiltonians, 3 North America Cups, 27 Breeder Crowns, a winner of the 1987 Payson Triple Crown, inducted into both the U.S. and Canadian Harness Racing Hall of Fames. To become a sponsor of the tribute to Mike LaChance, please visit www.ustrots.com.
Oh,
The Harness Racing Alumni.
that's enough, Michael. Okay. All right. I think, Freddie, you want to talk about what's behind you today.
Yeah, well, I'm using the virtual background of a Roosevelt Raceway postcard. That's a postcard from 1964. And the horse, and you see the orange and black silks, that's my dad out there. You can also see it's from our stable because I can tell that the bike is orange too.
Nice.
And there was just a small crowd that night.
Yeah, looking at the apron is completely packed. I'm sure the grandstand is packed too. Wow. I remember them days.
Yeah, that was a typical night at Roosevelt Raceway.
We talked about it last week. For a lot of years, Roosevelt out-averaged, had higher attendance than the sports teams.
Yeah. And you also have to remember, Roosevelt was like pretty much the first Long Island sports event out on the island. It was before the Jets, the Giants, the Mets, the Knicks, and all of them. Not the Knicks. What was the other one they played over there? The Islanders and so forth. Mm-hmm. But Roosevelt Raceway was the first sports venue there. The colors are Long Island colors, orange and blue.
And even for a half-mile track, it was a wonderful venue.
Yep.
Not like today.
Well, back then, most of your tracks were half-mile tracks.
Kind of a mix between half and 5/8, right, Freddie?
Yeah, say that again, Michael.
Most 60s and 70s, mostly a mix of half miles and 5/8.
I remember mostly half miles. Larry, what do you remember? I remember half miles.
I remember they were about almost 100 racetracks on the back of the program. Most of them were half-mile tracks, 5/8 tracks, and they were 1 or 2 mile tracks. That's all I remember.
Yeah, the West Coast was the mile tracks, is the way I remember. So,
yeah.
Well, there was a mile track too. The kite track that they had up there at the old. I forget what they called it, but.
Yeah, there weren't very many large tracks at all in the 70s. I mean, especially on the East Coast. Vernon was a 3/4 mile track, right, in the 70s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I think
I raced up at Vernon, and you came out of that chute. It was like a straightaway. You come out and you go straight away that first quarter.
I think the perfect size racetrack should have been a 5/8 mile racetrack with maybe a 7-degree bank in the turns. That would have been the perfect racetrack.
Not that it's the perfect racetrack, but do you remember when they raced harness at Colonial Downs?
Yep.
I forget the circumference. I think it might have been 1.25 mile track, but it was a 1-turn mile for harness racing.
Yep.
And the first race in the history of the track, they went 51 to the half.
Wow.
With Ultimate Falcon, they went 147 and 4, but 1 turn.
Yeah,
And,
the problem there was when I was over there, like you're watching them from the backside there. You couldn't see the race. You couldn't see them until they came around that turn and hit the head of the stretch. I mean, you couldn't see anything.
But they did run the 98 Breeders' Crown there, and of course they broke every record because the halves were so fast.
Look at this. Gary D says the young lady win 8 races at the Meadowlands Saturday. What's that all about?
I think she won. I think she won 3 races.
She won 3 races.
It says 8.
But that's a record for a lady, which was very surprising to me.
But this says the young lady.
Yeah, she had 4 starts and she won three races. That's what I saw.
And lost the other one by maybe a
very,
head.
very, very talented driver.
She can get one out of the gate.
Who is she?
Okay.
Lauren Triton. She weighs about 7.
From New Zealand or Australia?
She weighs about 7 pounds.
She weighs more than that, but I think she's a New Zealander, correct? Or Australian?
Yes, she, like I said, she can get one out of the gate as good as most.
Boy, I wish I would have known that. I would have put a couple up. We could have watched it. I wish I would have known. I didn't know. I didn't know. Let me say, everybody, his son Dan.
The Triton family's been in the business forever, so they've campaigned many good horses in New York.
Yes, they do.
Now, what does this say? This says Gary D. Good show last night, Larry. That was, I guess shoe means show and Blake means trade. Is that it?
I'm going to go with let's go with that.
Okay.
I see. Howard has one up here. It says, Joe Mazza was a thoroughbred trainer, also a harness driver. I remember, Frank Tagarello, he trained thoroughbreds. Joe Bonacorsa trained thoroughbreds. Tony Rolla trained thoroughbreds. And who else went over there, Larry? You trained some.
Priscino?
Yeah, Nat Ray, he trained both standardbreds and thoroughbreds back in the 50s and 60s.
Then there was a big guy that trained and went from standardbreds to thoroughbreds. He became pretty big, too. I can't think of his name. Geez, I forgot. But he was pretty good.
Well, what you recall, the leading trainer in the country thoroughbred trainer started out with the standardbreds currently right now, Chad Brown.
Yeah.
He was working for Paul Kelly.
They tell me that Sierra Leone's racing Sunday, huh?
I guess so.
Where would he be racing?
All I know is that he's racing Sunday.
I mean, you got Kentucky. The Nashville Derby is Saturday. You've got
what's in Saratoga Sunday? Let me see.
Oh, you know what? He might be. But the big race is the Pacific Classic. And I'll tell you why it's the big race, because anytime that you get 3-year-olds against open horses, that's what people want to see. So you've got fierceness and Nisos and journalism in the Pacific Classic. And anytime you get a 3-year-old against older horses, people go crazy for those races. It's late in the card at Del Mar Saturday.
Leone race and it's
and let me expand. This is potentially going to be the greatest Breeders' Cup of all time if they can get all these horses healthy to the Breeders' Cup Classic in 2 months. Because throw in Sierra Leone, throw in Mindframe, and throw in a couple of the other 2-year-old, 3-year-olds, pardon me. This has the potential to be the probably the greatest Breeders' Cup Classic ever.
Well, one of the things I wanted to talk about tonight is next week on September 2nd would be the 85th birthday of Roosevelt Raceway had it remained open. And, it's opened in 1940. And it basically revolutionized harness racing. And probably if Roosevelt never opened, nobody would be racing today.
Freddie, was that the first track with lights?
Yeah, there was other tracks that might have tried it, but once or twice for one time, and they might have had cars out there with the headlights on. But,
Okay.
But Roosevelt was the first one that they put the lights in, and it's an interesting story as to how that developed. Roosevelt Raceway was named for the Vanderbilt Cup races were being raced at Roosevelt in 1935 and 36. Due to World War II, they couldn't get any of the European drivers over. Mm-hmm. So they basically canceled the races, and so the track was sitting there dormant. That's when George Morton Levy and Bob Johnson stepped in, and they actually leased the track, and they put a half-mile track in there. They used the grandstand that was in place. They put a half-mile track, and they put lights up to race midget cars at nighttime. They were racing midget cars. They raced the midget cars in 38 and 39, but their plan was to bring in the standardbreds, but they were trying to get the bills put through for Power Mutual Racing in Albany. And so it took them about 3 years to basically get that bill put through. And they had worked with the Thoroughbreds, and they had pretty much cut the deal that the Thoroughbreds would have the daytime and harness racing would have nighttime. And the first race at Roosevelt Raceway was in September 2nd, 1940, but the racing commission and everything wasn't formed until like January, February of 1940. And a lot of the work was done previously with the auto. They already had the betting in. They were actually betting on the auto cars too at the time, the midget cars. And so they were pretty much set up, and they only had to do a little work to get it ready for a harness track. And they raced 30 days that year, 1940.
Sierra Leone is definitely racing Sunday at Saratoga.
Is he in the Woodward?
I don't know, but he's racing Sunday at Saratoga.
Okay.
Jockey Gold Cup.
Oh, the Jockey Gold Cup is Sunday? But I'm telling you, my sister passed away last week, so my brain's a little fried. But that's the race with White Barrio. I think White Barrio went to the Jockey Gold Cup also. It kind of snuck up on me. Yeah, that should be a great race. It's your favorite horse, right, Larry?
I don't want to talk about it because on Facebook they had, I think it was Facebook, somebody put a picture up of that horse, two of Chad Brown's horses finishing training a mile or whatever it was. One was going sideways and the other one was going straight. Both of them looked identical. Same hood, same blinkers, same everything. Bandages on all fours. You couldn't tell the two apart. So I couldn't tell if the one that was cockeyed running in was Sierra Leone. But the other one was straight and one had his head twisted around. All equipment was exactly the same. I should have taken a picture. And put it up, but I promised I wouldn't talk about Sierra Leone no more. But
after bringing him up 3 times?
Boy. I shouldn't. But I'm just going to look to see if I did.
I'm reading Manny's statement over here about the Murphy blind.
I did take the picture. And now what I'm going to do, and I think I could do it without interfering with you guys. I took the picture. I'm going to let me see. I'm going to send it to my email, and then I think I could send it. To without you guys without interfering with the show. I think I learned how to do this. If I screw this up, I screw it up.
First flash 2 to 5.
Let's see. I think I could do this. I'm gonna try to do this. All right, I'll give it a couple of minutes to get to my email. Then I'm going to try to do this. If for some reason I screw everything up, I will come back on. We'll restart it again. All right, let's go to some of these things right here. Okay, Manny, Jesse, $1 Million Race. I am surprised Mike didn't know that he knows everything. Yes,
That's obviously not true.
okay. And Jesse Black says, laugh a lot. Okay. Dudrow. Manny says, Jesse Black, the man knows everything. Okay, here's our friend Howard Lieberman. Michael, you based in Ohio?
Chicago, Illinois.
Okay. Gregory Peck says Chad Brown started with Standardbreds first. He would know a Murphy blind. Yeah, but I don't think they use Murphy blind, but they use a Murphy blind cup. They do have an extended cup that you can use, and I mentioned that on the show. So it's a cup with an extension that acts just like a Murphy blind. But anyway, I'm going to put the picture up. I hope I don't screw it up. I'm going to put the picture up and what it has in writing, and I don't know, see if anybody's going to be able to tell the difference. Let's see, PM. Hi, Larry. Did you ever think of of the trainer that sent you that horse from Roosevelt, the one with Bobby Scores? Bobby Scores.
That's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Bobby Scores. That's he. You said Bob. No, it was Bobby Scores. Oh, I remembered. See, I remembered. Maybe the skills are working. Bobby Scores sent me that horse up. He couldn't qualify in Yonkers, but he made the qualifying time for Monticello. So he sent them up to me, and he says, don't change a thing if these hobbles were leather hobbles, 3/4-inch leather hobbles, riveted. He says, don't change them, put them in the holes I have marked on the hobble hangers, and don't change nothing. So I says, all right. So we entered him to race, and he was going to race, I think the next day or the day before, or whatever. Bobby put him in, and then he shipped him up to me. So I says, well, let me put all the equipment on him and just see how he goes. I'll just take him to the track. I'll go one slow trip before he races. I just go up mile like 20 or 30. So as I'm coming down the hill, he tripped on that at the bottom of the hill. Before you get to the track, there's a little hump of a black top, and he tripped on that, and the head check was riveted. Everything was riveted. And everything broke. The head check broke. When he went down, he tried to catch himself. The hobbles broke. Everything broke. So I walk him back up to the barn. I told my brother, well, I got to jog him anyway. I took every single thing off him. No head check, no nothing. And they had him checked high to the double bar crab in his mouth. He was like in a vice with his head way up high. But anyway, everything broke. I bring him back to the barn, take all the equipment off, just throw a bridle on him, took the hobbles, hangers off, took everything off, took him on a racetrack. He had his head down between his legs, pacing slick as an arrow. So I says, oh my God. So I turned him, and I thought he'd just start off, get to a certain speed and start galloping. He started pacing like crazy. It was unbelievable. And then I chased him the last quarter. He was flying. So I scratched him. I think I scratched him, and I called up Bobby, and I told him. I says he fell. He scratched his knee up, when he fell, which he did. He scraped his knee up, and I says, I think just scratch him. I says, I'll put him in for next week. I didn't tell him what. And then in between that Tuesday, they had qualifying races. So I put him in to qualify free-legged, and he qualified like unbelievable free-legged. So everybody at the track knew about it. And so I put him in to go at freehold. I told Bobby, I put him in to go at freehold. We bet a lot of money on him, and he just went for fun. Turned him into a no hobbles, no head check, no nothing. Turned him into a free-legged pacer. The horse's name was, oh shit, I almost had it. I forgot the horse's name, but the trainer was Bobby Scores. Okay, let's see. What's this here say? Manny, Larry, I stopped at the track to see Eddie. He brought me to Chad Brown, and I asked him what he is going to do this Sunday. He said he's putting a Murphy blind and head pole. All right. And
tell Manny to put a stiff line with a burr on it.
Okay. Now, Manny, I just want you to know, in fact, I'm going to put it up right now. You asked me what the address was to send you a sponsorship in. I'm going to put it up right now. Let me see.
He's left.
No, he's still.
The Harness Racing Alumni is currently producing a tribute video to Mike LaChance. Mike LaChance is one of our sport's greatest drivers of all time, a winner of over 10,253 races, with career earnings exceeding $180 million. He is a winner of 4 Hamiltonians, 3 North America Cups, 27 Breeder Crowns, a winner of the 1987 Payson Triple Crowns, inducted into both the U.S. and Canadian Harness Racing Hall of Fames. To become a sponsor of the tribute to Mike LaChance, please visit www.ustrots.com.
Okay. Now, I'm going to try to do this. I sure hope. I wonder if, how the hell, see, what I have to do now is I have to get to my email. Now, how do I do this without, let me see what happens if I hit email. Oh, God. You guys still there?
Yeah.
So far.
Okay. All right, because I don't see you on the screen. I'm in emails now. Just stay there.
We're still here, Larry. We see you.
Oh, you see me?
Yep.
We see you.
Okay, I have it here. Now, I think I'm going to be able to do this, guys.
I'll alert the media.
I'm going to be able to do this. Now, if I could just
we hope so.
click out of here and click out of here. Yep, I'm back here. Now I go to, what do I go to now? I go to, let's see. I go to here. I go to here. I go to here. I go to here. I think I'm doing this. All right. I'll keep talking, guys, so the people don't think we... Oh, here it is. I got it. Okay.
Right.
Now...
What do you got, Larry?
There it is, what I got. Oh, let me get rid of this. And okay, there's the horses. The thing says Sierra Leone worked a half mile in 49-2 over Saratoga's main track on Saturday. Sierra Leone and Fierceness. What's it say? Oh, I cut off that part. The 1-2 finishes.
The 1-2 finishers from last
now,
year's
which one is Sierra Leone? They both have the same exact equipment on, same identical equipment. Now, how are you supposed to tell which one is Sierra Leone? I don't know. But one is straight as an arrow,
right,
and the other one is a typical how Sierra Leone looks coming down the stretch. So I don't know, but that's what I saw. I don't know which one Sierra Leone is. So, but you you see that's what I mean when they work these horses with these problems. Now, if I was I shouldn't even say this, but if I was a trainer, I would have 4 horses working with him, and then coming around the last turn, I would have him on the rail and then trying to steer out around them 4 horses with a Murphy blind on and see what happens. But we'll see. We'll see Sunday. He's going to race Sunday. Okay, but I didn't know I could do that. I did that. Very good. I'm getting good at this stuff. All right, let's go back to the comments here. Eric has a question for Michael. Woodbine canceled today. I heard the equine flu spread. Any info on that?
No, but I'll try and get some before the show's over.
Okay. Okay, Larry.
I see Howard up there had great seeing William Hudson.
Let's see. Yeah, Howard, seeing William Hudson, underrated catch driver and Freddie's dad, comes from good stock. Bill Hudson would have been top driver, but for the fire. Met him a few times. Classy man, like father, like son. Yep, you're right there, Howard. He was a nice guy.
Yeah, that fire was something else. So,
who were the only trainers that helped him out and gave him some horses? I think one was Huey Bell, right?
Huey Bell, and he built the stable back up, but he didn't have the stock. He basically ended up with a cheap stable where the horses that burnt up, he had the top stable on the grounds that year. So.
Okay, Michael, how are you, Larry, and panel? We're all doing well, Michael. Thank you. And Steve says, good evening, guys.
Good evening to you.
Good evening.
And Larry Cox says, Woodbine long legs don't run on Thursdays. What's that mean?
Don't know.
Okay, Larry Cox. Larry Cox, they canceled last minute, I heard. And then Howard Liebman, a friend of mine, said Carmine's improving. That's what I heard too. That's
good.
Good for him. He's a tough guy. He's tough. He got some brutal accidents, boy, and he just came back better than ever every time. Tough guy. Tough guy. Okay. Every day we have 100 comments. Today we don't. All right, so what do you want to talk about?
Well, I was going to talk about Roosevelt Raceway, being its the 85th anniversary coming up.
I'll go straight ahead.
So, a lot of people don't realize that when George Morton Levy opened Roosevelt Raceway, that he didn't know anything about harness racing. What him and Bob Johnson had been doing in 1929, they were running the dogs over at the Mineola Fairgrounds. And they had a betting system over there where you would actually buy the horse with your $2. You'd buy interest into the horse for the dog for the race. And that's what they carried over when they did the midget cars. But they were under constant pressure from the county to close up the dog racing over there. And so they ended up closing it up and switching over to the midget cars when they took over the lease on Roosevelt Raceway. And there's a lot of history there, and there's a lot of it's said that Lucky Luciano is the one who financed the opening of Roosevelt Raceway. And so you had Costello involved. You had a lot of the top gangsters at that time involved with Roosevelt Raceway, and you had a tremendous amount of betting going on with the bookies in the early part that never showed up in the handles. And I mean, they were very generous during World War II to the what was it called, the USO. They gave a lot of money. They gave all the parking money to that. And Roosevelt was the top track, and it basically revolutionized harness racing with the starting gate in 1946. Larry, I'm going to ask you this question: why did they have a 16-bed hospital at Roosevelt Raceway.
A 16-bed hospital? I don't know.
I don't either. But when they built the track, they built the mini hospital into the track.
I don't know. But I'll tell you what they were racing back then. Everything was leather, and everything cracked.
Yeah.
And if you didn't have good grooms that paid attention and saddle soaked them things the right way, and they just you almost couldn't help it, even though you took care of it. It was just leather that was 1/8 of an inch thick, and
Yep.
go in this, you set them up on a horse, so you go in the same hole all the time, and sooner or later there's going to be a crack there, and sooner or later the weather's going to change. It's going to get cold, and they're going to snap. And I seen that happen in hundreds of races I was in back then, when leather hobbles and bridles, everything. They just dry rot and crack. And I remember Stanley Dancer used to change his equipment every year. He bought brand new equipment. But the guys at the smaller tracks, they keep the equipment for as long as they could. And you should see some of the times they came out with balun wire or string for a hobble hanger, because it cracked or it broke, and they would get very, very creative. And that's how it was back there. So maybe the 16 hospital bed wasn't a bad idea. I know with some racetracks, 16 beds wouldn't have been enough. So who knows?
Fellows, I'd be curious, and maybe our listeners would be curious also. Could you describe how they wrote the races back when the Roosevelt opened, or even in the 50s?
When Roosevelt first opened, they had an 8-race card, and every purse was $250. And it was by times. They had the standard time of this, or they had the open, and they actually, I guess, of the 8 races, I guess 2 of them raced in heats. And they only had like about 6 horses in each heat. They were in each race. They were short on horses terribly. The horse that won the first race at Roosevelt Raceway, the horse's name was Martha Lee. She won the first race, and it was either the 3rd and 4th race that day. And then she came back the next day and won another race. So, they were racing the horses every other day.
Fellas, when did the ABC begin?
The ABCs, ever since I remember, I was on the ABCs. But when you go back, I guess in the 50s, they may have not been using the ABC system. And I was not racing in the 50s. I was just a kid. Larry, do you remember?
And Larry, could you explain the ABC system to our audience?
Yeah, ABCs. I came around in the early 60s, and it was ABC, except when you get higher. Then after A1, then came the preferred pace, then the invitational pace.
Yeah.
But
at Roosevelt, you went from A1, A2, A3, rather A3, A2, A1, double A, and then JFA and free for all.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I left out junior free for all, and then free for all. Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's how they label it. Yeah.
The race secretary determined where you were racing, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. You started off, the cheapest race was C3. That was the cheapest race.
Right. And then they also had like C-class races for 3-year-olds too. You had C1, C2, C3 for 3-year-olds.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think 70% of the races were claimers, and the rest were ABC. And then if you won a race, they moved you in C3. They moved you to C2, and to get back down to C3, I think you had to finish back at 3 or 4 starts, finish off the board or something, and then the race secretary would back you back. But you were in the hands of the race secretary. But if you had a lot of horses and a lot of, if you had 20, 30 horses, it wouldn't. A lot of guys had stable horses. By that I mean a like if there was 2 horses that I own, and I had 30 horses that I was racing, and the 2 horses I owned were in B1. I would just spend 3-4 months backing them both down until they were like in C1, and then bet on them and win. And many guys did that. They just when they needed, after 20, 25 starts, they racing hard, they needed a rest. But instead of stopping and turning them out, you just raced them easy, made them look good, but raced them easy. In the meantime, you're backing them down in class, and before you know it, you go from B1 to B2. You race another month, you go from B2 to B3. Meantime, the horse is freshened up. He's not being used hard. He's being well taken care of. And then the following week, he's in C1, and your ton's the best. And then you just win by a half a length, and they might even leave you in the same class, so they move you back up, and then you take it from there. You do the same routine. But, you can't do that with an owner. So if he's not, in my opinion, if you had horses that were in C class, you belong in a claimer. So
Murray McDonald worded it one time. He said it's going to be a bad year for me. I only got 2 of my A-class horses backed up to C company.
I'd also like to ask both of you what it was like driving in front of 25 and 30,000 fans, some of whom would be as vociferous as a baseball fan, correct?
Yeah, it was normal. That's what I was brought up with. I never thought anything else of it. Going before an empty grandstand, I think I'm in qualifiers. So.
Yeah, the only thing that bothered me about that was that they were just like the picture behind Freddie. When you come back, if you got beat with a favorite, they were right at the rail there. And back then they had beer bottles. Start flinging things at you. So then they changed everything to plastic, plastic bottles. But
there was a famous riot, correct, at Roosevelt?
Oh, there were a couple of them. Yeah, they one at Roosevelt, one at Yonkers. Yeah, I think a security guard got killed at one of them, right, Freddie?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. I think he had a heart attack. I think that's what occurred to him.
And all this was about the result of a race, correct?
Yeah,
an accident in the race.
Yes,
and the horse finished, and they didn't call it a no contest, and that's what caused it. I think only 2 horses finished out of 8. So,
okay, let's see what we got here. Okay, Jesse, let's see. Oh, here's one here. Howard Liebman once saw Satchwarren to pull his feet to the front at any cost. Carmine pushed him, then backed off and retook lead and win. Satch pulled up his horse and stopped. So what's that mean? I guess Satchwarren left, made the front. Carmine pushed him, then backed off, and then retook the lead, and Satch pulled his horse up and stopped.
Yeah, well, Satch was known for he'd leave out of there as fast as he could, and he'd be looking to the right, and he'd come right into anyone that was there. Just pretend that you weren't there. So, yeah, you were forced to pull up, otherwise he'd just run into you.
Wrote Yonkers had 1,700 in the second race win pool Tuesday night. How can they even justify having races? That's unbelievable. 1,700 in the whole win pool in the second race.
That can all be fixed.
Yeah. Well, maybe some of that was because a lot of people might have been alive in the double, so they just wait for the, who knows. Okay, let's see. I'm
looking at this one up here. I can't, PM, I think it is. Larry or Freddie. Remember the hole at Roosevelt? It was about 1/3 of a mile of pure sand. I used to jog one and tow one at the same time. You didn't have to train one after 20 minutes of that. I'll tell you, I actually have pictures, and I can't find them. I have pictures of them from the 1950s when they were building that new track, racing in the hole. they did a fair there or something. They actually raced in that hole. And if you've ever been on that hole, how tight those turns are, and how deep the sand is on that track. I was totally in shock when I saw the pictures of them racing in the hole.
Didn't Jimmy Cruz have a barn right there at the entrance to that track?
Yeah,
Because I know he had.
he was in double M or double L, something like that. So that was right there. Steve Demas was right there too.
Okay, Jesse Black writes, Martin Levy was Frank Costello's attorney. Right, that's how I got stalls. Okay, Eric, if Manny comes on, I have some sincere advice for him. Eric, I just want you to be respectful. Don't mess with Manny. No back and forth stuff. If it's serious and legitimate, that's fine. But no crazy stuff. And the reason I'm telling you that is because that's what I told Manny. So just everybody be nice and be friends and don't get me crazy, because I'm not going to get crazy. I'm just going to have I have a guy with a hatchet here, Jesse. You see that wrench by Jesse? Jesse, I don't know how the hell he got that. I think my friend Tommy Stiggs gave him that wrench next to Jesse Black's name means that if somebody is being disrespectful, he could block him or take him off or whatever he does. So, and I think he did that once to you, Eric. And I told him that you've been on this show from the very beginning to put you back on. So I hope this, what you're going to do with Manny is okay, because I had a long talk with Manny, and I told Manny to be respectful for everybody, and he has been. So I hope you do the same. Okay. So Eric, if Manny comes on, Manny is on. I think he's on because he put a couple of posts up. So, okay, let's go. Just looked at Woodbine website. No race is scheduled for today. Larry Cox said that.
Thank you, Larry.
Howard Liebman, ABC started in 1961. Junior free-for-all and free-for-all.
Freddie, why don't you start and tell everybody about if your horse was listed on the board in the race office, that you had to race in that race that the race secretary put you in.
Yeah, they basically had this all the classifications there. A lot of times I'd go in there to see where my horses were classified, and you go over and they'd have the C1s, the C3, the C1s, the C2, and they were all right up there, and you could slide them out. And I actually know a person that actually slid them out and changed them around. Nobody noticed. Larry, was that you?
No, but they did have a list right in the race office, because you didn't know you raced that night. You go in the next morning and you look on the board to see where if the race secretary dropped you or not, and
or moved you up if you won. So
yeah.
They correct. If the race secretary posted you invitational, you had to race in the invitational.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You think that was a better system?
Well, they changed it.
Well, I think with the amount of horses that they had on the tracks at that time, it worked. Nowadays, because they race at multiple tracks and they ship in, the system doesn't work. And they only race 2 days a week, where you're looking at, Roosevelt had 1,200 horses to play with, and they were racing 6 days a week.
And that brings us to another really good question. Was there the provincialism when Roosevelt was going great and Yonkers was going great? Did they not want you to take your horse to other racetracks?
Well, they kicked a lot of guys out. They had people were trying to get in there all the time that couldn't get in. The race I'd put in for 20 stalls and get 15. They were always cutting you down on the number of horses that you were trying to get stalls for the race there, and you had to get the stalls in order to race. That was part of the problem, but everyone was trying to get into Roosevelt and Yonkers at the time. It had the most money, and they were racing for the most money.
Could you describe how fast the races were going then, Freddie?
You had races going in 2.5, 2.7, 2.1. 2.1 was your top horses. 2 minutes were anything under 2 minutes was very rare. But a good horse was 2.3. So, and then also you had the other thing, like some races, if you didn't go qualifying time, all the horses or the horses that didn't go qualifying time were put on the qualifying list, and you'd have to qualify.
And obviously, if you have a lot of horses, you could be very particular about making people feel qualified again.
And they were very choosy as to who they let in. It was pretty much a closed door. I know a lot of people that tried to get into Roosevelt and Yonkers that couldn't get in.
As you
Larry's turned his lights out, I see.
No, I froze and I tried to hit the picture, and now I'm.
It's like that Monty Python thing, the art of not being seen.
Well,
Larry, so the host has left the show.
Question though, the nighttime show that Bergstein did at Yonkers, did that show originate at Yonkers, or did it originate at Roosevelt?
I think it was Roosevelt, but I'm not 100% sure.
And
but you got to remember, like, they had shows there all the time. Way before Bergstein started his show, there were other shows there. I think the best one was, I guess it was in the 50s. Roosevelt Raceway started doing the live racing on like CBS for the metropolitan New York area.
Okay.
As the races would go off, they would interrupt the regular TV program to show the races from Roosevelt. That lasted about 2 nights before the network took them off the air. There was like the first time that anyone ever did a live sporting event came from Roosevelt Raceway. And the people that were watching television were like so pissed off about it that their races were coming on and interfering with their shows that they were watching. And you also have to remember back then, we only had like 4 channels in New York, maybe 5 channels. ABC, CBS, NBC, and I think a local network. And I think that's the only ones I remember. And you also have to remember that at like 2 o'clock in the morning or whatever it was, all the stations went off the air and they'd play the national anthem.
And you'd have to, for the younger people that are watching, you'd have to imagine a time where there were no casinos, no lottery, no sports wagering, no home movies. So obviously there was a considerably less competition for the harness tracks to flourish.
Oh yeah, and the other thing that was going on at that time, the bookies, when they tried doing the live racing, were having the races telecast at their homes and having people come over there serving them sandwiches and taking the bets.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be the largest spectator sports, more than including baseball, football, and baseball combined. Standardbred racing was the largest spectator sport.
Horse racing was the number one sport, along with boxing and what was the other one?
Baseball.
Baseball, right? Baseball. Those were.
And you have to remember in the 60s, after about 64, the Yankees went very cold till about 76, and the Mets took 9 years. Eventually, they won the World Series in 69, but obviously they had many, many atrocious teams in the 60s. So Roosevelt and Yonkers obviously took advantage of that.
Yeah, we had a lot of the Mets and Yankees owned harness horses. Jerry Kuzman was there all the time. Ron Sabota, Ed Kranepool, they owned horses. They were there, and they ended up opening a restaurant over on 110 out on Long Island. I don't remember what. I think it might have been Farmingdale, but called the Dugout. I don't know. I don't know what happened there with that, but that's a long time ago. But then you had, when you go into the Roosevelt Raceway paddock, it was like being in the Yankees dugout at one particular point. All the Yankees were there, and that goes back to the story of how the Yankees came about. The Yankees came about because of Yonkers Raceway. What was it? Frank Farrell. He was the casino king. They called him the Pool Hall King. He was the top bookmaker in New York. And we're going back to the late 1800s and early 1900s. So when Yonkers Raceway failed, when, what was this? Bill, that's right at the tip of my tongue, but when the owner of Yonkers Raceway failed and he had died, his estate was now up, and so it was going up for auction. Frank Farrell ended up winning he was the winning bid on owning Yonkers Raceway. The family contested it, and so the judge basically allowed them an extra 2 weeks to see if they could find another buyer. And so his bid was like $210,000. So they did find another buyer. That the New York City Driving Club came in, and they basically purchased Yonkers Raceway for $300,000. And so Frank Farrell, Prohibition came in and cracked down on the gambling. And so with that same money that he would have been buying Yonkers Raceway with, he bought a baseball team called the Baltimore Orioles. He moved them up to New York, and they changed their name to the New York Highlanders. And then from the New York Highlanders, they changed their name to the New York Yankees. And that's how the New York Yankees got started.
Howard, I hope you're feeling well.
Okay, well, let's look at some of these questions here. Howard says, you guys never mentioned Adios Butler. Best horse of his era, had match race with Adios Harry. Adios Butler was a great horse. I actually have a picture of him someplace with Lucien Fontaine training him up in Monticello for Page West. So I'll basically send that to Larry, and he can post it up there next week. Michael says, how was it when approaching the finish line, hearing the roaring from the crowd? There we go. It was there. You expected it. Like you could hear it. Like when especially like you go to the half, you could hear that crowd. And then when you're coming off that turn, you could hear the crowd. Yes, it added some excitement to a race, in my opinion. Larry Cox says, Box, I am watching the bet in Mohawk, too. Mohawk takes bets all across North America up to the last few seconds. Michael, I guess that's for you.
Yeah, a lot of places take bets right up to the moment the race starts, and that's what's causing a lot of turmoil in thoroughbreds and harness with the late flashes that are coming. In other words, you see horses that are displaying odds, and then as the race is going, those odds get greatly diminished. So you saw that a bunch at the thoroughbreds today, horses taking like gigantic drops. This is trying to get addressed. NYRA is limiting the win pools on the largest computer wagers, and so is Delmar. And so far, the sample size isn't great, but it's noticeable that this has helped deter horses taking these huge flashes during the race.
Okay. PM says here, at Roosevelt, picture 30,000 people, and every betting window was dedicated to one nomination. You talk about lines. That is true. You had the $50 window. You had the $100 window. You had the $2 window, the $5 window, the $10 window. You had the exacta windows. You had triple windows when they brought the triple in. And then after you won, if you won your bet, you had to go cash them at the cash-in window. So you couldn't go to the same window.
Yeah, but what Freddie's trying to say is you had sellers and you had cashiers.
Sellers and cashiers, exactly.
So, and if you I think we're educating some younger people. If you wanted to bet $10, you had to go to the $10 window.
Right.
You couldn't go to the $10 window and bet $5. There was a $5 window. There was a $50 window. And I swear either at Roosevelt or Yonkers, there was a $250 window somewhere on the big nights. So it was amazing to see. And I'm sure part of that was thinking about how to facilitate a crowd of 25 or 30,000. And the trifecta, you'd have to get in line with Freddie 10, 15 minutes to post.
Yeah, and you get shut out too.
Yes.
I can't tell you how many people would get shut out while you were online there. You get someone would get up in front there on the line and order 20 tickets or something like that. Each ticket comes out one at a time. The big bettors, they would tie the windows up, and if you were in back of a big better, you weren't getting your bet in.
Mm-hmm. Just a different era.
And Morty Finder at that time, he'd have like 5 people up at the windows betting at the $100 window. Every window was tied up with him betting, and they'd just be betting until the bell went off. When the bell goes off, the betting stopped. Okay, so I feel kind of strange without Larry here. So.
Can you guys hear me now?
Yeah,
we can hear you now.
Okay, because now when I take myself off, you can't hear me, but now you can hear me now. I just want to go through some of these that we skipped because I don't want to skip nobody because I get yelled at. Broke Horseman says, sorry, $4,000 in a win pool and a $15,000 claimer, 15,000 purse. How can they justify it with MGM? I don't know. That's the nature of the game now, I guess. Okay, Von Marsh, watching Woodbine Mohawk car is moving 30 seconds to all. 15,000 in a win pool. After race, 32,000 in win pool, and odds change drastically. That's just what you talked about just now, right? They're going to eliminate
First race at Kentucky Downs today, there was 65,000 in the exacta pool when the race started, and at the end, there was 131,000. Almost.
Michael, how much was the purse for that race today?
The smallest purse at Kentucky Downs is 170,000.
That's what I saw. I saw when you sent me that program, I was like in total shock that every single race was at 170,000, 200,000. Oh, some good money they're racing.
Saturday, they start the card off with 6 straight $170,000 races, maiden special weights, and then I believe the races are 1 million, 2 million, 2 million, and then 3.5 million. I know on the card has more than $11 million in purses Saturday.
Wow. Freddie, I think you answered this question, right, about the sand hole at Roosevelt?
Yeah. You know what's at the hole now? A TGI Fridays.
Nice.
Okay, you guys, we answered that one. Okay, what's this one? I saw E. What's that mean?
Proceed.
Okay. How was it when approaching the finish line? Okay, we answered that one too. I am watching and betting Mohawk too. Mohawk takes bets all across North America up to the last few seconds.
It's a huge conversation, Larry. We've been talking about it for years, and many executives that run racetracks and owners that own racetracks have been told about this. And again, NYRA has started dealing with it, and so has Delmar. And it is going to be a giant conversation. I think once we get past Breeders' Cup and Breeders' Crown, I think this is going to be the big conversation in the Hot Stove League this winter.
Okay, Eddie, Freddie, I don't know if you remember this. Howard Liebman says he saw Eddie Cobb getting into a fist fight with a bettor as Cobb lost a photo. Guy picked up a trash can.
And Eddie Cobb was Batman.
Now, I will tell you one story that Bob Marks told me. Bob Marks said, like, he was at Roosevelt, he was in the grandstand, and a guy had just lost money betting on lost a substantial amount of money betting on a horse, and so he meets the owner over there. He's talking with the owner, and he's really pissed that he lost his money, and he said, what happened? This horse should have won. And the owner said, well, we weren't going with him tonight. The guy looked at him and cold cocked him and knocked him out.
I take it they were going next week.
Larry Cox says people play pick fives or exactas or trifectas or supers now. Here's Gregory Peck says, who holds the track pacing record at Roosevelt? I don't.
Well, okay. Larry?
Go ahead. I don't know.
No, I know, and I just can't remember the horse's name right now. I do know who the horse is, and it was set in '88.
Oh, jeez.
Was it Matt Scooter?
No, it was in one of the big races. I just it could have been '87, but I just forget the horse's name. But I actually have a picture of it's one of the props I use. I have the picture of the horse in back of me. So
87 would have
Whalen from Canada drove the horse. So
87 might have been Jay Lobel.
no.
Because 86, Fontaine had retired that
Forrest Skipper.
Skipper.
It wasn't that. It was a Canadian horse. I know the horses. I know the horse's name, and I just can't remember it. So
It'll be somewhere in the vicinity of like 156, right, Freddie?
I would say so. And I got the media guide here. Well, but that's the wrong year. So
Okay.
Nothing's perfect.
Michael, do you own horses or have you owned horses?
I just bet them. I think I'm on the right side. Owning horses is a very, very rewarding thing, but you need to be very, very realistic with your goals, especially if you're in the yearling game. Obviously, the yearling game, if you hit the home run and get a superstar horse and you can stand that horse, you've hit the jackpot. But not a lot of people can do that.
Yeah. And he says once Meadowlands opened, everything changed. Yeah.
Well, Meadowlands changed the wagering game too. All of a sudden, you went from 8 horses to 10 horses. This doubled and tripled the combinations of your exactas and trifectas, and everything paid much, much bigger. And as we know, payoffs and pool size dictates where people are going to go. And it didn't take long for everybody to turn the Meadowlands into the number 1 track.
Angelique says hello to everybody. Hello,
Angelique. Good evening to you.
Are you the girl that read my book? I think it was. Larry Cox, Freddie and Michael, 1994. I started work at Caesar's Windsor. Guide who did orientation was from Caesar's, New Jersey. Okay. What's this say? Howard Liebman, 2, 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 13. 2 Spanish stations.
I think Howard's saying those were the New York stations.
Okay. Larry Cox,
Okay.
Casinos got the sharpest cookies in North America working for them.
That's the difference between horse racing and casinos.
Yep.
Guys like
Johnny
Anzello can work forever because there's no telling what that guy's worth. And the people like him, if you go back to the Gahn family, I mean, Michael Gahn, I mean, these people are there's no price that those people are worth. The knowledge that they impact and still come up with great ideas. I've said it. I'll keep saying it. Harness racing needs to get more gambling people into the business if they're going to be serious.
Well, okay. Lou Pinella went to the track a lot.
I've got a story.
Oh, yeah.
I got a Lou Pinella story.
Go ahead.
2005, 2006, I'm sitting in Chicago at an OTB, and the first guy to come in is Don Zimmer, and then the next guy to come in was Lou Piniella, who at the time, I believe, was the Tampa Bay manager. And my track was owned by a fellow who was partners with George Steinbrenner. So it's Lou Piniella, Zimmer, and about 4 of his other guys. And Lou Piniella was a very serious horse player. Very serious. So they wanted to order some food, and I see the manager, and the manager says, well, they can't order some food. We closed the restaurant. I said, you see that guy over there? I said, that's Lou Piniella. See the guy next to him? That's Don Zimmer that works for the Yankees. You know who also has something to do with the Yankees? The people that own this OTB. So whatever they want, go wherever they want. I think Smith and Walensky was like a block or 2 away, and get those guys whatever they want. Trust me. But Lou Piniella was an incredibly studious horse player, and so was Don Zimmer. Don Zimmer, played the dogs and everything when he was in Florida, but Piniella was very into the racing form.
Okay.
Yeah, I had invited Mick Brazzulli to come on tonight. He didn't get back with me, but I did invite him. He was very close friends with George Steinbrenner. And he, a few years ago, Hank Steinbrenner was actually looking to build a racetrack in Wantagh on Long Island. And he had picked out 400 acres over there, and then the zoning and everything pretty much killed the idea. They wanted him to put like $1 zillion in zoning to put roads in and all this other stuff. And so they totally passed on the deal. But they were looking to do that, and they were looking to also set up going for the casino also. But Nick could tell the story a lot better than I could. But that was one of the reasons I was asking him to come on.
You have to remember that about 20 years ago, they were going to sell the NYRA franchise because Steinbrenner was heading a group with my people in Chicago that were going to buy it. And Churchill was also interested, and I believe Stronach was interested as well. But they ended up keeping it with NYRA because NYRA had the land rights. But there was a brief time there where they were thinking about selling all the NYRA tracks. But as you recall, after 9/11, that New York was quick to respond to how bad the situation was, and that's why slots became the go-to at every New York track. And also, there were tracks that were built. Tioga Downs was built after 9/11. Or rebuilt.
Okay, let's see. How about this one? Crowded Vernon Downs Friday night was about 75 people. Average age was about 65. How long can racing really survive in New York?
You can't run 7 tracks at the same time.
Okay, here's Eric. Larry, my sincere advice for Manny is this. I buried both my grandpa, lung cancer, and dad, mouth, from cancer, smoking cigars. You see, everyone on here is concerned about health and of others. God bless. You're very right, and I'm sorry for your loss, Eric. And I don't know if Manny's still on, but I will relay this message to him. I don't think it's going to do any good because one thing I learned through the years, giving somebody preventative advice is fruitless. It don't work. It just don't work. It's only after the fact that they start to pay attention. But if you say, listen, you tell them this advice, they're still going to smoke. That's the experience I had. So, but it's very nice of you to give him this advice, and he should stop smoking. I don't even understand the pleasure I smoked for a long time, but cigarettes, but you inhaled. Cigar smokers, they just puff in and puff it right out, and they're left with a mouthful of that disgusting. So
I want to address the previous person that said about talking in Vernon. Now, granted, it's Saratoga and it's the greatest track in America. However, if you watched the Apron when they had the Travers, the apron was full of young people. I would say average age about 30, well dressed, not afraid to be drinking, not afraid to be betting. That thought it was a pretty cool thing to come out and bet the races and drink on a Saturday afternoon. And they have made their events incredibly popular. Somehow we need to do the same thing, and Freddie touched on that on a couple of his shows.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, Eric, I will pass that message on to Mandy if he didn't hear it, and thanks for that. And everybody here, Natsu, you're sorry about your grandpa and your dad.
Yes.
Okay, Larry Cox. Larry was right. Wow. Advertising waste of money. Why not go after people they list? Okay, Howard Lieberman. It was baseball. It was baseball, boxing, horse racing, until football. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, Larry Cox. Track should use pari-mutuel betting on sports games. We talked about this once, I think Larry mentioned.
We did.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
Better than money line for sportsbook. Yeah, we talked about that.
Hey, Freddie, Larry, do you remember the California tote board that Roosevelt brought in the one year that showed all the possible show prices and place prices? And
Yeah.
it was the longest board I've ever seen.
Yeah, I remember that board.
I know.
Yeah, the board would be up there, and you look at it and tell you what the horse would pay for win, place, and show.
It would tell you that maybe the 7 horse would pay between $320 and $560 to show.
Yeah, I remember that.
Here's a question for you, Michael. Michael, kind of you, these programs clear my mind. Oh, this is from Howard Lieberman. That's the fella, our friend on this show that has cancer. And the last reports were not doing too good. And he texts me all the time saying, thank you so much for this show.
You're welcome.
It's the only time that he clears his mind, rehashing all of these stories.
And stop the all smart stuff. You don't want to be spreading misinformation.
Let's see what he says. Michael, kind of you, these programs clear my mind. You guys are regular guys and are all smart. I couldn't get ahead at trotters until Joe Garino got hot. I mean, 35% winners for some meets. Yes, Joe had about a 10, 12-year run where he was the top. He was good. And again, Michael, I mean, Howard, I wish you all the best. Let me know. I know the last test results you got were not too good, but keep us informed. Larry Cox, 90% of bettors, 5% horsemen, 5% track ownership.
Yeah, but you forgot the state in there. They got to get their cut, too.
Okay, let's see. Howard Lieberman, you had a win place window, too. That's right.
I think they were all separate, right, Freddie?
I think they were. Yeah, you had a win place.
Win place, and show.
Yeah,
they all had
all
windows.
separate.
Yeah, that's right. Lou,
the tickets were really cool. The tickets, they should have tickets like that today. You see people, they show those tickets around, and they've collected them over all these years.
I have a whole bunch. I should go back while you guys are talking because I got a picture of a whole board with all of them tickets. I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to do that.
The feel to them, you felt like you bought something.
Oh, it's like artwork, right?
Yeah. And they all had the numbers on them, and it would say the track. It was real. I think that the horse racing should have those tickets. It should be part of. It should be like a baseball bat. They go out. They have a bat. Have baseball without a bat.
Howard Lieberman says Freddie Morty Finder had his own private window. That's exactly right.
Right, but not at all tracks. At Monticello, he didn't. And I saw him operating in Monticello.
PM guys, how does Yonkers dictate 1 million?
He had about 5 people up there betting when I saw him up in Monticello.
PM says, guys, how does Yonkers dictate 1 million a week in purses plus all their other expenses and stay in business?
Casino.
Every night can't make up for that.
It's,
And
the gaming
not
revenue.
tolerate this. Well, right, but he said MGM will not tolerate this much longer.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let me.
I think they're only on a month-to-month lease right now. I'm not 100% sure, but I think that they are. Yeah, somewhere along the fact I heard that.
What's this say? Lou, Larry Equipment is worn out broadcasting every night. Larry Equipment worn out broadcasting every night. Oh, you know what happened? I think this happened once before. But every night I come on, I always reset the computer. And tonight I didn't because I got up here the last minute. So maybe that has something to do with it. But it's definitely not my fault. It's StreamYard's fault. Howard Liebman says Romeo Hanover, and Gregory Peck says Freddie said Welling is right.
Right. That's who drove the horse. So it's like it starts with an E if I remember correctly. But I just really I'd have to go look it up.
Well, Jesse Black says Cam Fella 56-2.
No.
Okay. Michael, have you been to Fort Erie track? Open 2 days a week, 50 people there. It's embarrassing.
I have not.
All right. What I'm going to do now is you guys keep talking because I'm going to go find them tickets. How the hell do I do this now?
Getting back to like when we did the Roosevelt Raceway book, when we were looking up the records and stuff, we missed the last year of the track records, and the horse that set the track record at Roosevelt came in on the last year of the track's existence, and so we missed that one. And so and many people reminded me of that after the book had come out. So that's how come I know that Whalen did it, and I know that the horse's name starts with an E. I just can't remember the horse's name at this point.
I don't know if this is right, Freddie, but I Googled it, and it says Governor Skipper set the track's fastest mile in 1978 with a time of 1:54.
That was broke. That was broke.
So you're saying it was under 54 flat? Okay.
I don't remember the time. I really don't, but I do know it was in the 87 or 88. I do know that much. And I think it could have possibly been in a Breeders' Crown, but I'm not 100% sure. So,
okay, well,
I have a big picture of the horse. I mean, it's one of the props that I use when I'm doing book signings. So,
okay, here's something. Howard Liebman says, I think Michael should be a paid spokesperson for harness racing, and Saratoga has diluted product. Maiden claiming.
There's a horse population problem everywhere, even at Saratoga. You're seeing it everywhere, every day. I think Mohawk has had to delay their Monday draw the last 4 Mondays because they couldn't fill. They eventually filled, but they had to wait another day to fill. And this is fairly normal. And you would think with all the 2-year-old races that I've seen this summer that eventually this is going to possibly stop, because there's an enormous amount of 2-year-old races that are going on, but we have too many tracks. I know people don't want to hear that, but for the supply of horses we have too many tracks, because all you're doing is you're making the betting horrible everywhere. It's like you could have a 10-horse field and somebody else says, well, I'm not going to have a 10-horse field. I got to have 2 5-horse fields to make sure I can make 10 races. Well, you can imagine what the handle is going to be on those 2 5-horse fields.
Okay.
Yeah.
Eddie says it was a $15 combination. Maybe, was there a $15 combination window? I don't know.
Yeah, hey, Larry, I'm going to answer the other question up there too for PM there. Asking me if I remember Bobby Sampson. Yeah, I remember Bobby pretty well. Black and white colors. I was friends with his back in the 70s. I first met him at Monticello. And then I basically saw him again when he was racing at the Meadowlands, and we were racing there in the late 70s, I believe. And he got killed in an accident when they hit a moose coming back from the races.
He drove Le Baron Rouge late in the 70s and the early 80s. Probably one of the bigger invitational horses I've ever seen.
Yep.
Yes. PM. Freddie Governor Skipper also holds the track record.
Yeah, Freddie thinks it might have got broke in 87.
It got broke in the late 80s. It did. And I'm pretty sure it was in a Breeders' Crown.
Gary D says Stokey Adam at Roosevelt. Howard Liebman falls down from 35,000 to under unbelievable. Unbelievable.
The foals are, for standardbreds, the foals are down to, registered foals each year between 7,000 and 8,000. The last numbers I looked at.
Mm-hmm.
The thoroughbreds are out there right around 20,000 right now.
All right. And Joe says, hey, guys, Ombro, Emerson, Freddie, and...
He's right. That's it. That's the horse. Ombro Emerson. Correct. 100%. I knew that there was an E in it.
Make notation. Freddie Hudson, correct. Google, wrong. Freddie Hudson won. Google, nothing.
Okay, so that was it. Oh, let's see. Oh, yeah, another guy got it, too. Yeah. 2 people got it.
I probably gave it away when I said it had an E in it.
Okay. I think we ran out of questions here.
Where's the tickets?
I couldn't find them. I would have to go. All right, I'm going to try it again. Because I think I did put them up there. Let me try it again. So talk about anything.
Okay.
All right, let me go.
154 and 3. See, Greg's right up there.
Let's see.
See that? So that's the record. 154 and 3.
Wait a minute. I have to take out the comments. I have to go into this. I have to go into this. I have to go to this. All right, I'm going to do it real quick. So talk about anything, guys. I'm looking for the tickets.
Look at that.
You can get them on the internet. You can get them on the internet.
Yeah, but I don't know from the internet. I don't know how to get them on here.
Yeah, I have the same problem, but I think Freddie described it perfectly. It's artwork, and the tickets of yesteryear are significantly nicer and souvenir worthy than the tickets of today.
Yeah, I have a bunch of them. I see someone said Marvin Maker. That's a name I haven't heard in a long time. Marvin Maker used to be great to go out on St. Paddy's Day.
Up to the present, there's some pretty good races this weekend in Canada with the Maple Leaf Trot and the Canadian Pacing Derby. So a lot of the big stars that you'll be seeing for the next 2 months are up there in some big races. And there's also other big races. Canada will be the flagship probably for the next 2 months through Breeders' Crown. And then everything will swing back to the Meadowlands for the kindergarten and FanDuel in the Final Four in November. But Canada's going to have a lot of the big races coming up for the next 2 months, and they host the Breeders' Crown this year, the last 2 weeks of October.
Okay, so Jess Black says over here, guys, we got 9 likes. Please give Larry a shout.
All right, I can't find. I probably don't have them in the pictures of this, but I have them on my phone. But I can't find them. I can't find them. Anyway, let's see. Joe Garino. I remember Pat Ivine set the track record with Maine Morris, and Norman Duplass broke his record with Mirror Image of the following week. I don't know what happened after that. Joe Garino, my pal. I hope his dad's doing okay. His dad's home with him now. How about Jim Martinez? Jim Martinez went from the Trotters, very successful trainer with the Trotters, and he went to the Thoroughbreds and become very successful with the Thoroughbreds.
Now, what is his relation to Lou Martinez and Nick Martinez?
Who's Nick Martinez? His father? His father was the barber in the Roosevelt Race.
Right, Roosevelt Raceway. Okay. So Lou Martinez. I didn't know Jim Martinez though.
That's his son.
Okay.
Let's see, guys. We got 9 likes. Please give Larry a like. Oh, I got that thing I could put up. This
You
thing.
could.
Yeah. See that thing there?
Nice going.
Yeah, it's a thumb up. It says hit likes. Hit like or something. It's supposed to do something but I keep getting demonetized anyway. Last week I played that song Trade Martin wrote. I got demonetized. And then I played another song, and they yelled at me. They says, stop playing copyrighted songs or something.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I do.
Hey, play the Roosevelt song.
That's the one I got copyrighted for.
What do you mean? You had the author. Yeah, I'm part of the lyrics on it. Trade Martin is registered to him.
Well, I know, but they demonetized. Not that I care. I don't care. I'm just telling you, I got demonetized for that, which means they don't give me my 32 cents for the show.
you had the. You had the producer of the song, the author of the song on the show.
Okay. Here, who says, I guess you guys don't want to rate Sandy Hawley.
Probably one of the best Canadian jockeys of all time. And by the way, Ron Turcotte died in the last week, I believe.
Yeah.
He was 84, but probably.
There were a lot of good jockeys. I wish I could remember, because I used to sit with Alan Sewall and go through all the jockey names, and they were a lot of really good ones.
We actually hosted a jockey challenge in late 80s at Balmoral, and we got everybody. We got Laffy Pinkai, Sandy Hawley was there, Eddie Dilhuse, and Jerry Bailey, and Shoemaker actually won it. And to see Shoemaker, if you never saw Shoemaker, I mean, he looked as frail as any jockey. Him and Pinkai weighed the same thing, but Pinkai looked like a boxer, and Billy Shoemaker looked like just skin and bones. But both obviously great jockeys. I asked Pinkai what he has for a snack. He said 2 peanuts.
Yeah.
That was in 1990.
That one guy you mentioned lived on a $700 calorie diet his whole career.
Pinkai?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. PM says, Larry, did you know Mr. Kadish bought Skip by Night for $600,000 after he won 12 in a row at Yonkers? He would have been real good sire, but he never got the mares. Downfall of a lot of good studs. I didn't know that. He must have did it after me, because I didn't. He had to do it after me, because I didn't know anything about it. So,
by the way, in addition to the stuff that's going on this week, next week you've got the Pennsylvania Sire Championship Finals. I believe that's Thursday and Friday, maybe Friday and Saturday. I think it's half fits at Chester and half fits at the Meadows. A week from Saturday, the New York finals are in Batavia, which will make the racing real interesting. And then the week after that are the Kentucky sired finals at the Red Mile. I think they go for $400,000 each. So there's a lot of stuff coming up. It's racing's about to get a lot better.
I'm looking for the tickets, guys.
Okay. Well, I see Vox Marsh over here says, Freddie, which do you prefer, training pacers or trotters, and why? I always preferred training trotters. I always felt that there was, with a trotter, back when I trained trotters, you didn't have hobbles on them, and it was more of an art to balance them and to hold them together, where the pacers, you could just throw the hobbles on and they would just go. But with the trotters, you had to balance them and you could feel them. Like, I guess, Larry, you know what I'm talking about. Like when a horse is just about to make a break, you could feel it and you could steady them and you could hold them together. And it's sort of like, it's just got a different feeling with a trotter than a pacer, in my opinion.
Years back when the gates, when the breed wasn't as fine-tuned as it is today. I mean, years ago, they start breeding out lameness. They start breeding out conformation flaws. They just start breeding the best gaited to the best gaited. And now there's really no challenge in training a yearling trotter, because when you go look at them in the fields, they're going 220.
They all go. They go.
So. Years ago, when we were involved, you had to have a lot of patience for a trotter, because it just took a lot of time with most of them just balancing and getting the right angles and the right weight and the right shoes, and you needed a lot of patience.
Larry, 3/4 half rounds and toe weights. I mean,
and heavy rib bell boots.
Yeah, and now they go barefoot. So
yeah.
As the business has changed, though, fellas, that's why American trotters cannot beat European trotters, because over the last 10 to 15 years, there's an urgency to make money with these horses, and you have to rush these trotters because the owners demand it, because they make these stake payments at 2, and there's horses that don't even make it to their 4-year-old season. Meanwhile, almost all the time, the top trotters in Europe are 5, 6, 7, 8 years old, just like it used to be in the States when we used to produce phenomenal trotters. But American trotters can't trot with European trotters; they just can't. And I think that's
when you go back years ago, when you went to the sales, you were buying your stable. You were buying your future stable. You would get a horse, you'd break him as a yearling, race him lightly as a 2-year-old, bring him back as a 3-year-old. He'd be with you at 4, 5, 6, 7. He could be with you until he's 9 years old before you put him into a claimer or something. I mean, it was a totally different ball game.
I mean, can you imagine like Dancer or Hawden using a catch driver today and seeing him go 56 to the half with a 2-year-old his second start?
Well, they both use catch drivers.
I'm saying the rates of speed. Yeah. There's no. I think you touched on it, Freddie. Trotting is patience, and because they're rushing these horses to race at 2, you can't have the patience that some of the people of your era have.
Yeah.
Hey guys, guess what?
What?
I found the tickets. I found the tickets. Now let's see if I can get them. Let's see. How do I do this now?
This would be the greatest trick of all. We can't see you, but we can see the tickets.
Well, now
I'll stand up with an applaud.
Okay, wait a minute. I think I got this. I know I got it. I just got it.
Okay. Let's see. Smaller fields create smaller layouts. Any better passes, no value. How many of Joe Garino, 35% multiple knee? Okay.
Hey, Freddie, were there guys when you started that exclusively had trotters, trainers?
Not that I can really recall. I know Sonny Patterson switched over, but that was like sometime in later in his career to just trotters. Gerfine, I think, went strictly with trotters.
Correct.
I think when the Europeans came in, the Swedes, I think they were basically trotters. Continental, I think they were all trotters. But I pretty much remember all of the Americans being a mixture of pacers and trotters. And then the other thing was when the Swedes came in and stuff and started buying the trotters at the sale, nobody could afford to bid against them to buy a trotter. So because they were buying them all up. It's just it's you need the stock. You always need the stock. The stock will make you look good.
I know near the end, Stanley wouldn't drive a pacer.
Yeah.
I'm looking for the tickets. I know I got it up here. I'll find it.
Okay.
I just got a million pictures up here.
Okay, this one. Guy says, one of my favorite races, 1983, the American Trotting Championship, Bobo.
So who won that race?
I think Bobo.
Oh, okay. There are a lot. I mean, the sports tried a lot of things. They just don't tend to stick to anything. I mean, they used to have the U.S. Pacing Championship. They used to have the Salvy's idea of the Classic Series. I thought was tremendous. They just don't like sticking with anything.
Yeah, but then we get back to part of our conversation with Gordon and Rick, trying to put a Grand Slam together, trying to change the sport to make it a little bit more exciting and more interesting.
I did it. You ready? Here's the tickets.
I'm ready.
What happened here?
That looks real good, Larry. There we go. We got it now.
Geez, I wish I should have fixed it better because I could eliminate it and made
that's good. You can see them just fine.
You could?
Oh yeah.
I see them. I sent them to you. It looks like.
Well, they were. I can't. Let's see. Maybe if I get.
Well, you can actually see what Freddie's talking about. The artwork. The artwork on these tickets is amazing.
Yeah, there was.
And each color designated a different dollar amount. So if you were at a racetrack, every color was a different dollar amount.
I could fix that picture up. I'm not going to do it tonight, but I could fix that picture up where it's bigger, because I can't make it out.
Larry, do you have any real tickets?
Do I have any real tickets? No.
Yeah, I'll get you some. I'll send you some. I got a bunch of them. I got several hundred of them.
A bunch of them. Send it. I'll take the picture and then we'll put them up, because these things. I'm trying to find the year on these things, but it's just too small. I can't see.
I think it's at the bottom. I think it's at the bottom. It tells you what race it is, the date, and everything on those tickets.
I want to say
a lot of information on those tickets.
I want to say around 1980 they were gone. By 1980, you went to the new computerized tickets where a teller could not only sell you a bet, but also could cash it. That was one great gig for the tellers, because once the race went off, the people that sold the tickets didn't have to work for like 10 or 15 minutes.
Yep. Okay, so Larry, did you know that Mr. Cadis
Let me ask PM a question.
for $600K after he won 12 in a row at Yonkers? It would have been a real good sire, but he never got the mares. Downfall of a good stud.
Yeah, I got to ask PM, and I'm sure he'll write the answer down, or he'll text me. This had to be after I was out of the game. It had to be maybe around the same years in 88, 89, 90, something like that. I would imagine, because I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Skip by Night. Well, what's easy? When did Skip by Night race? What years did he race? I don't even remember the name. I don't know. So it had to be after me, sure, but I'm sure PM will text me and let's see, maybe. Okay, let's see. PM Larry, do you think a lot of trotters' gait has something to do with the way they carry their heads? Larry, do you think a lot of the trotters' gait has something to do with the way they carry their heads? Yeah, some horses just want to go with a high head, some want to go with a low head, some want to go with their heads in between. Wildwood Jeb was a free-legged pacer, and he stayed on the trot all the way up until the recall pole. Got everybody all nervous, and then he switched right over to a pace. But some horses, it's probably 70 to 80% of trotters, I believe, would go with their head lower.
I agree.
Yeah, and but sometimes you have to keep raising them, and the reason you would raise them, and that's the problem the trainers years ago had that they don't have today. Years ago, a horse would probably naturally trot with his head low. The lower the better. Between his legs, he would trot, and then you raise it, because it's too dangerous. You have no control. So you put a head check on him, and then you raise him where he looks comfortable, and he'll trot. But then when he trots and he's comfortable, you start going faster and everything is fine until you start going around miles in 20 and 15 and 212. Then the interference start. Once the interferences start, meaning the front legs, the front feet hitting hind shins, hind hocks, hind ankles, then the whole series of events starts to happen. The first thing they probably try to do is maybe change the shoes, square the toe, quicken them up front. But sometimes you got to raise the head, make them climb a little bit more. And these are all the tricks that the old trainers had to start using.
Yep.
Raise the angle up front, maybe shorten the toe. But when you do that, they wouldn't trot, because a trotter, for the most part, back then, needed a longer toe and a lower angle. But that's how they would trot naturally. But like I says, after a trot comes a canter, then a gallop, and they can only trot naturally up to about maybe 25 miles an hour. So once you get up fast to that and you teach them how to get to that point, they start interfering. Once the interference starts, then everything starts. You might change the shoes. You might raise the angle. If that don't work, you got to leave the feet alone. You got to start raising the head a little bit to get them to climb a little bit. There's a lot of different tricks that you have to try to do to get horses that were not gaited the way they are today back then. That's why I said earlier that the training trotters in the olden days, you needed a whole lot of patience, and you better know what you were doing. Today, it don't seem like that. Today, they just all seem to go with their head down, just comfortable, and you don't see a lot of boots on them. But years ago, they had everything from trotting hobbles to elbow boots to hind shin boots to hock boots to ankle boots to scalpers. They had everything, because they interfered, and then you had to teach them to go while they were still brushing their shins pretty good, and then you try to widen them out behind with maybe egg bars or a long trailer, a lot of different tricks trying to, and then it become you try to quicken them up behind, or you just tried a lot of things, and that's why I said before, years ago in the 50s and 60s, to get a trotter it was you had to have a lot of patience. You better know what they were doing because it was just a challenge. Today, I think every trotter that today could probably go with no head check and no shoes, and it's still trotting 50. So there's a whole different ball game today. Okay, PM says that was the early '90s. Larry, he was the sire of Laurel Butler. Okay, all right. So that was after me. I didn't know any of that. Wow. Just think if I wouldn't have got barred in '84, so that was in the '90s. If I didn't get barred in '84, I would have been with Kadish. Kadish would have been my main guy, Kadish and Aaron. And I probably would have wound up with Kadish because Aaron was getting very sick at the time with diabetes pretty bad. Plus, I think I would have wound up with Aaron as the main owner. I was getting older. I calmed down a bit. I think I probably, I know I would have wound up with Kadish. And all of this, all of what he did after that could have been mine. But I'm just surprised at one thing, and I hope someday I'm able to meet Larry Kadish because when he asked me to call him, I called him in 1987. He says, "Call me if you win your final appeals." And I lost my appeals, and he says, and here's what he said to me. He says, Now, PM, you know Larry, so I'm telling you things that Larry said to me, and you could, they're true. I wouldn't, you know him, you talk to him, so. But Larry Kadish called me up, and he said to me, he says, "You lost your final appeals. I'm all done." And he says, I spent, I think he said $3 million a year on young horses for Teddy Wing, and paid all the stake payments and everything, and the only horse. The only good one is the one he told me not to make the stake payments on, and he was the best of all the yearlings that I ever bought. He says, I'm all done. I'm getting out of the business." But obviously he didn't because he bought that horse for $600,000, and he stayed in. I wonder who trained him. I wonder if who trained that horse that he bought for $600,000. I wonder who. I wonder if he stayed with Teddy Wing. I don't know.
Let me tell you the best thing about the trot Saturday night, the Maple Leaf Trot. There's 3 favorites in the race, and the 1-2 finishers, Lexus Cody and Periculum, are 6 years old and 7 years old, and the horse that went broke 50, the first horse to break 50, which was Atos Kronos, is 9 years old. So the 3 favorites in the Maple Leaf Trot Saturday night are 6 years old, 7 years old, and 9 years old. And if I had to guess, the 9-year-old is going to be the favorite.
Okay, let's see this. You guys ever see the movie Lucky Number 7? Came out in 2016 at Ford Erie Racetrack. Excellent movie. Biggest stars, did poorly at box office. Yeah, all the racetrack movies do. Not
try and check that out.
Freddie, PM says, "Freddie, did you ever get your horse's teeth floated by Frank Albert? He was really the only one around here that I knew that did that. I didn't know if he still does it."
I used to use Red Horn, I think it was, to float our teeth. He worked for Doc Brennan, and so he was floating. He did most of the floating of the teeth. We used to call him the Tooth Fairy, just as a joke.
Nice.
Okay, Greg Peck, French and Swedish studies of thousands of trotters with no shoes. 1/3 go faster, 1/3 stay the same, 1/3 made breaks. Wow.
That may be true, but there are certain trainers that know when to take the shoes off. That are better at it than your suggestions.
French and Swedish studies of thousands of trotters with no.
Hey, Greg, when you were over there, didn't you drive in a race? Well, he can answer on the text messenger.
Yeah. Okay, PM. Yes, Teddy Wing did train him for a while until he was retired, but Vinny Origema had all the glory with Skip by Night. Okay, so Katie stayed in the game. I didn't know that. And he stayed with Teddy Wing, and then he went with Vinny Origema. Okay. All right, we'll wait to see if Greg answers you back. And that's
Okay.
going on 2 hours, and that's it. We're all done. I'm tired.
Okay.
That's all right. I'm picturing you tunneling in the dark like Ernest Borgnine in the Poseidon Adventure, trying to get to the light.
Here's Greg's answer. Yes, Freddie, I drove at
Vincennes.
Vincennes in Paris. Wow.
And if you would have, and I'll go back to Greg, and didn't you say if you would have driven them American style, you would have won?
Greg is an unbelievable guest when he comes on here. He's great.
He is. I mean, he should be on again.
Yeah.
Very informative.
Yeah. Very, very smart guy, very sharp guy.
Yes.
But I never asked him to come on because last time he was on, he just says, "Okay, that's it, I'm done," and he's gone. He's obviously a busy guy. I know he's going through a couple of tough times. He was very upset. He was very upset that they wouldn't let him in the paddock Hamiltonian Day when they had his horse
Muscle Hill.
They wouldn't let him in the paddock. Now that's really shitty. That's really, really shitty. And he was very upset about that, and rightfully so. Okay, let's see. Gregory Peck, what Michael is saying is wrong. Okay. Don't fight, guys. Don't fight.
You can't start an argument with me.
Okay, Howard Liebman. I thought Benny Webster would be top 5 driver. In my opinion, he was.
Benny's one of the best.
Yeah, but the problem is it can't be the top 5. It has to be like the top 10 or 15. It can't be the top 5. You
can't. There's too many guys with equal talent.
How do you leave LeChance out? How do you leave O'Donnell out? How do you leave Campbell out? How do you leave Pierce out? How do you leave Catello out? How do you leave all these guys out?
Yeah, Carmine. I mean, you just go right down the line. Schulte, you can go in that direction.
And
I mean, just too many great drivers. And
Jimmy Morrell. How do you leave them?
And then you got Sears, and you got the guys racing now, Yannick. You just can't. It's different time. Just different time zones and stuff like that.
The only way they'd probably make a list is by money earnings or races won or something like that.
Which that doesn't even count either. Look at Eddie Davis. Now he raced at all those small tracks. He's a great driver.
Not only that, but Ronnie Pierce, I think he made half of what Campbell made, but he had to stop driving. He had a rod in his back. Same thing with Catello. Catello probably would have went up to 30 million. He would never stop, but he had to stop racing.
Yeah, right after that accident at Freehold with the starting gate that wiped him out.
So with them guys, they're all so talented that the only way they'd be able to rate them is by money won, or not even.
You can't even do that because you go back to the 60s, 70s, and 80s. The money that they race for now was not the same amount of money.
Yeah.
The best part, fellas, there's no right answer.
Yeah. Yep, I guess so. Okay, we got a couple of more. Here's Larry Cox. Dexter Dunn. Yep, best ever. Well, okay. Howard Lieberman. What about Mosey? Yep. One of the top. That's another way to throw it. The top 5 will expand to the top 50. That they're all great.
It'll be like the college football playoff.
Gregory Peck. In other words, with respect to Michael, American trotters as a rule are way better. Why do you think Europeans went American blood? Look at, I can't say that name. American blood.
Estos Kronos.
Yeah. So
yeah, and well, if you look at what happened when they all went over to Europe and bought those French trotters for 20,000, and they brought them all over to the U.S. I think that they all were duds when they finally got finished. They had one race over here. I don't think any of them amounted to much.
I'm not talking about the breeding, Mr. Peck. I'm talking about the racing. I think the racing, the best trotting and trotters you'll see all year are at the Elite Lop and the Prix de Marique. And I think the best trotters you'll see in the United States all year are almost always at the International Trot. Now, last year they didn't have a lot of foreign support, but I believe this year it's going to be different. And it's just an opinion. There's no right or wrong. I just think the horses that come from Europe, the trotters that come from Europe, are just superior to our horses. And I think the reason for that is they don't hurry these trotters to race at 2 and 3 like we do.
I wish that there's a horse, and I put about 3 or 4 of his races up there, and I interviewed the trainer, Leap to Fame in Australia. And he probably wins 4 or 5 million by now. He just wins everything. And I think from what I've seen, he's like the best pacer in the world right now. I would love to see him come to this country and compete against the best ones here. But they tell me that he'll never come because the richest man in Australia is the guy who owns him. So, and he'll never be there. But I think it's Leap to Fame. I have a bunch of his races on here. If there's a way for you to watch replays of Leap to Fame.
What is that the right name? Michael Gordon was talking about that.
Yeah, I mean, and Larry's right. The richest guy, down there owns the horse, so he's not leaving.
And then, yeah.
Okay, let's see. PM Larry, you were talking about drivers that sat back in the bike. I think the first one to do it was Walter Case with those new bikes. Nope, the first one to do it was the guy before Walter Case came around. It was Mike Gagliotti, and he used to get fined at Freehold all the time for sitting back there. If you watch the races at Freehold in the 70s, Mike Gagliotti always sat back in the bike, even with them bucket seats. But he just that's how he sat. He sat back in the bike. And he got fined many, many times for not having control of the horse. So he was the first one ever, and he did it. I don't know why he did it. Nobody. I never asked him, but he did it. I think it was just a natural thing. That's just the way he sat. But he always had a hold of the horse. It wasn't for. But I don't know if it was just that he was comfortable like that, or if it was for wind resistance or whatever they do it for today. So I don't know. Okay, Howard Liebman says Jack Mose. Yeah, we went through that already. Dexter Dunn. Any track, any horse, always a tread, right? Yeah,
just better than everybody right now.
Yeah. Okay, Gary D. Must watch LET Ride It. It's
Let It Ride.
Let It Ride.
Greatest horse racing movie ever.
Oh, that's the one with Billy Popfinger in it?
No, that's Easy Money. Let It Ride is Richard Dreyfuss.
Oh, I didn't see. Okay, here's Gregory again. Freddie is right. They were duds. Howard Lieberman. One race, equal horses, any track. I'll take Horver, in my opinion. There's not many guys would disagree with you.
No wrong answers.
Gregory Peck, Michael, you are right. The few trotters at the high end are very good in France.
And that, Mr. Peck, with all respect, that's because let's take the thoroughbreds. Like the Breeders' Cup Classic goes for $7 million. So everybody's got that circled on the calendar. Now, if we had a $5 million race at the end of the year for 3 and up, then everybody would take a chance and race their horses a little longer, which would be beneficial to the sport. I don't know how that happens, but that would be wonderful if that were to happen.
Okay.
I'm going to tell you something funny. I was reading an old article a few weeks back, and they were having baby races at Roosevelt Raceway in August. That's when the baby races were starting.
And they're all non-betting, correct?
Yep.
This is one for both of you guys. Let me lead it in perfectly. The greatest American horse in the mid-'60s was a horse called Brett Hanover, won 33 races in a row. Well, there was another horse that came to race against him called Cardigan Bay, and this was probably the biggest rivalry of the mid-'60s. You guys take it from there.
Yeah, Cardigan Bay came over from Australia, if I remember correctly. Stanley had him, and he was a great horse.
Stanley bought him for $100,000, brought him over here.
Yeah.
And
Cardi, and basically they made a stamp in his honor. He was a great horse. But we had aged horses back then, and there were aged horses, and I think he was racing, he was 11 years old before I think he went back to Australia. Might have been older than that.
I think he was 8 years old when Stanley bought him, I think.
Yeah, and he earn $1 million, was the first horse to earn $1 million?
Mm-hmm.
And he was on the Ed Sullivan show, if I remember correctly, too.
Yeah.
So, different time.
Yes.
I also remember Lou Barish telling me a story. He had to drive someone over to the studio to be on one of the TV shows in New York. And the biggest problem he had was that the guy was plastered drunk. And he's got the guy wants to go get a drink at a bar on their way over to the studio. And Lou Barish was like, I had to get him up there. He said, I thought this was going to be a disaster. He said, when the guy got on the camera, the guy was perfect.
There's also the famous picture of Cardigan Bay and Brett Hanover going into the club turn. I believe it was at Roosevelt with the 35,000 people all crowded on the apron.
I remember the match races between, I think they were two full brothers, I think. Oh, God.
Stephen Smith, are you thinking?
Smith and Irvin Paul, yeah.
Okay.
I think I remember John Patterson, and I forgot. But I remember, I think 1-1-2 and 1-1-1, but they were head and head around the last turn and head down the stretch all the time. They were pretty exciting. But I'd love to see that horse in Australia come over here and race. He's unbelievable. I have a bunch of his races. Right. In fact, I did 2 or 3 podcasts interviewing the trainer and driver of that horse, and showing his races. I don't know what. Probably they're somewhere in my collection. They're all on YouTube. I just don't know what number to look for.
Mm-hmm.
He's an unbelievable horse. Unbelievable. And the guy who trains him is such a good guy. He's has cancer, never works every single day, drives them, and it's quite a story. It's quite a story between the trainer and the horse. It's quite a story, and we did it. I have it in one of my podcasts, but it was one of them podcasts where it deserved like 5 million views, and I don't know how many it has, but it's a great story.
Howard, the answer to your question is Cardigan Bay. I hope everybody agrees, or maybe they don't, but certainly one of the greatest horses of the '60s, I would think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, there were a lot of great horses in the '60s.
Yes, but he was one of them.
Yeah.
Okay. PM, Larry, when these drivers laid back in the bike, you could tack on another 15 lengths for the last horse to make up. Who would bet on? Yeah, that's very true. I said it 1,000 times on this podcast that when you have, say, at Yonkers, an 8-horse field, you used to be, if you had post 8 and you were in single formation, you'd be 10 lengths to the winner. Now you're 20. And that's why when you go to Yonkers, you can rip the program in half and just handicap the first 5, unless the 8, 7, or 8 leave. But you got no chance. If you don't leave Yonkers, you got no chance.
I want to say Lexington, there was a race with trotters. They got to half of 58 and change. I think the last half was 55 seconds. So the race went 53. But the horses that are sitting in the back are getting to the half in 1:03 and 1:04. They'd have to come home in 52 seconds or 53 seconds. And what Larry's saying, what Freddie's saying is that mathematically, when the fractions aren't right, these horses, them winning is a virtual certainty because of mathematics. They just can't come the last half to possibly get close. And this needs to get addressed. And it was addressed in 1992 and 1993 when they abolished the cheetah, that drivers stepped up and said, you're just making the racing worse because these horses that are sitting in the back are now back an extra 5 lengths. That's why I think our person that wrote the comment put 15 lengths. The horse sitting last is 15 lengths out at the Meadowlands. So when they get to half in 58 seconds, just put an extra on them. No chance. Should be addressed. Larry going to send you a coal miner's helmet. Just keep digging.
Ramblin' Willie Farrington. Now I remember when in the papers and stuff, Farrington came over to. He was leading driver in the country, and he was racing at Freehold at the time. He was racing out the Midwest and coming in and racing at Freehold then also.
Mm-hmm.
And he did come into Roosevelt and Yonkers for 1 year and try racing there, but he didn't get enough mounts, and so he left. He was a top driver, but he didn't dominate like he did out in the Midwest.
No. The cool thing about Rambling Willie was that he was still a very good horse at 9 and 10. Well, he got hurt at 9. He came back at 10, and he wasn't as good as he was when he was taking on the Governor Skippers and Tri-Scotches 2 years before that. But he was still a very good horse at 10. And I think he raced till he was 12 or 13. I think he raced to 1982 or 1983. And because the horse had such longevity, obviously he became very popular. It's like C-Train. These are the horses people connect to.
Gregory Pegg says, Michael, you have a wealth of knowledge, well-rounded.
Thank you, sir.
And Howard Liebman says, what about Ramblin' Willie?
The Horse That God Loved. That was the book about him.
Yeah.
That was the horse that tithed 10% of his earnings to the church.
We had another one. I forget his name. The horse that time forgot. He was racing.
Well, all I could say is that I'm so sorry I took the wrong lane at a certain time, because I would have loved to have been a part of all of this history that I missed because I was out. And it bothers me more now, because when I talk about this stuff, I really miss it. I mentioned it once before, about 3 podcasts back, that it bothers me because the guys I had on, like Billy O'Donnell, in fact, I think I mentioned it when O'Donnell was on, that I could have been with part of that crowd. I could have been there. I could have still been racing horses. And I guarantee I still would have had Larry Kadish as an owner. And it's sad. It's sad how I screwed my life up.
Well, Larry, take it from me. I mean, there's a famous poem that says that the powerful play continues and you will contribute a verse. You're still contributing, and you're highly entertaining. So you just keep firing. Drive on. All right. I mean, I know things could have been better for you, but you have a lot of stuff that's worth talking about.
Well, thank you, Michael. The only things that are worthwhile talking about, I forgot.
Well,
I can't talk about it. Anyway, that's all the questions we have, guys.
All right. Well, we'll see you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. Howard, best wishes. Get better, pal. And to everyone else, thank you for watching the show. Freddie, let's talk about the Harness Racing Alumni show before you cut out.
Hey, Michael and Larry, always a pleasure working with you guys.
Freddie, the Harness Racing Alumni, give it.
The Harness Racing Alumni is currently producing a tribute video to Mike LaChance. Mike LaChance is one of our sport's greatest drivers of all time, a winner of over 10,253 races with career earnings exceeding $180 million. He is a winner of 4 Hamiltonians, 3 North America Cups, 27 Breeder Crowns, a winner of the 1987 Payson Triple Crowns, inducted into both the U.S. and Canadian Harness Racing Hall of Fames. To become a sponsor of the tribute to Michael Chance, please visit www.ustrots.com.
Okay, you want to say anything more about that?
Before we go, I want to tell everyone, like, the video is going to be out on August 31st or 31st or the 1st, no later, the Michael Chance tribute. I had a issue take place this week, which Larry knows about it. I had this new software. And so I've done this 100 million times where I put two pictures onto the same slide. So this time, this new software, it basically said this thing. And so I said, and then it gave me the delete option. I hit the delete and I erased the whole thing. Everything gone. No recovery on it whatsoever. But luckily, I had everything in the folders in my computer, and I was able to put it back together again. And it's better than what it was. So it actually forced me to make the video better than what the original was. But it did delay me. Otherwise, this thing would have been out already. But anyhow, I wanted to share that. Now you got more questions, Larry.
Got more questions?
All right, the home stretch. Here we go.
Let's see. What's this one say? Oh, we got that one. Howard Lee, you're catching up now with your friends and your cancer is in control. You guys help me. Much appreciated.
Well, thank you. That's very meaningful. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Gary D., you guys remember Rankins from Canada? They drove for Armstrong Brothers.
Jim Rankin died down in a car accident in Florida.
He had a little what the hell was that thing? It wasn't a Nissan. It was a little stupid sports car. Mm-hmm. And he left a banana boat. I think it was a banana boat or that other club that was right there. And he sped right down the street, and I think he hit one of them palm trees.
Yep.
And he got killed.
Talented driver trainer.
Lieberman, Michael should get paid to make a case, otherwise harness racing will die. He's one of the guys that should be on the committee that Freddie put together. And,
yes.
Okay. All right. So there you go. So Howard Lieberman, he's on the committee. So there's four guys. Freddie knows their names. The other two, I forgot their names. They were
Gordon Banks, Rick Burks.
Yeah. Okay. All right.
Start. So, all right, Larry. Before more questions come in, you can close the show out.
Thank you guys for coming on, Michael. The last minute, and Freddie, I'll talk to you in a day or two, I'm sure.
Okay.
And just letting you know, Larry, if any of those tickets are good, Freddie and I get half that you found.
You got to find the track to cash them. These tracks are out of business.
All right, fellas. Again, thank you everyone for watching. We'll see you next week.
Good night. Good night.
Good night.